Hey everyone, it's Cooking with Tej, and today we have something special for you today. We have a air fryer that we're going to try making pork tonkatsu with. And also, we have something else special. My brother got me this for Christmas. Our very own Cooking with Tej Grogu apron. It even has pork tonkatsu in the cookbook. But we don't need that. Finally set up and ready to go. But first, we need to prepare our pork. The type of pork we're using are specifically pork loin cuts that have a little bit of a fat cap at the end. So let's prepare these for tonkatsu. First step is actually to score the fat side. We're going to want some cuts so that the meat and the fat can cook very evenly. Same thing with the other piece. Looking for about a ½ inch apart. Too many cuts is not too bad, so don't worry too much about it. And then you're going to want to salt up your pork. Don't want too much. We're not cooking a steak here, but we do need a little bit of saltiness to go underneath our layer of panko crumbs, egg, and flour. Give it a rub, and other side. Want to lay some plastic on top so that you can beat your meat.
Nice.
Tenderize your pork. You can use a meat mallet, but I don't have one, so I'm just going to punch it. Perfect. Next step, to even further tenderize it, just take a little fork and poke a couple holes across the top. You just want a few holes to go across the entirety of the pork loin evenly, and do that on both sides. This is going to help it cook more evenly and quickly. Katsu or tonkatsu pork, you do not want undercooked, and you want it to be cooked evenly, unlike a steak, where you maybe would want a pink in the middle. Next, we'll coat our pork with flour, eggs, and panko crumbs. We'll use 1 cup of flour, crack 2 eggs into the second bowl just to be safe so we have enough egg for both. Whisk thoroughly just so that they can cover all of the pork without having to leave big chunks behind. And then enough panko crumbs in the last bowl to coat both pieces of pork. You can also add panko crumbs on top of the pork when it's in that last bowl to make it easier. So first up, let's dip that into the flour and then get that all coated over, flicking some flour on all the empty spots, and then finally dip that into the egg to also coat, giving it on both sides thoroughly. If you do see any white spots, do be sure to add some egg on top of that, and then move it on over to our panko crumbs, where we're going to make sure every single piece of this pork has some panko crumbs on it. Having to use our hands a little bit here because it's hard to get it all with just the chopstick. So you could just pour panko crumbs on top instead. And now, with the app, set it to 360 degrees to preheat. And once that's ready, we'll throw the pork in. All right, we're preheated. Now let's add in the pork cutlets. Number 1 and number 2. Give it a close. Now while that's cooking, let's prepare some sides. We have cabbage, pickled radish, and some sauces that we'll add on top. All right, so for the cabbage, the easiest way to do this is going to be using a mandolin like this. Just get a cabbage and chop it in half so that it can easily slide across the mandolin. And then decor it by cutting a triangle shape where you see the core of the cabbage up to the leafy green part, and then cut 1 slice horizontally, and then remove that bitter tasting core. And with the flat side down, just swipe it across the razor of the mandolin, and there you go, you have shredded cabbage. That's a perfect Japanese style salad. The other side, to help balance the freshness of the cabbage and fatness of the pork, is going to be some red pickled vegetable that you can get in any Asian grocery store, as well as some katsu sauce and sesame sauce that are both delicious for this dish. These are both really easy to make at home, but for the sake of the length of this video, we bought some at a store. Alright, our pork is done air frying, so let's go ahead and remove that from the air fryer. And as you can see here, the bottoms are not actually super perfect, so I'd recommend flipping them at least 1 time during the process. And be sure to let them rest for 5 minutes. Alright, it's time for you pork cutlets to wake up because resting's done. We're going to remove this piece at the end, this off screen, so that the on-camera image looks a bit better, but as you can tell, this pork is cooked perfectly in this air fryer. 10 out of 10, just from this alone, I would highly recommend air frying your pork katsu, because it requires literally actually 0 oil. I didn't add any oil for this recipe, and it is perfect. But let's cut these in a way so that we can add them to a plate. And the best way to do that for pork tonkatsu is to first cut the top layer of crispy skin and then press down really quickly through the rest of it. That way you get perfect cuts just like this. To garnish the plate, let's first add our cabbage. Then we'll rest our pork tonkatsu slices on top of our cabbage so that they're propped up for the camera. And to the side, we're going to add a pickled red vegetable. The color contrasts the pork and the green of the cabbage really well, as well as the flavor contrast. This is like a vinegary flavor that contrasts with the fatty of the pork and the freshness of the cabbage, making a great meal. And then we'll finish off the plate and the flavor with a very sweet, delicious katsu sauce that everyone loves. If you don't love this stuff, you're absolutely insane. We'll do a little sweep motion that we learned on the Gordon Ramsay show, and voila, perfect plate. Smash like and subscribe if you like this video, and I'll see you next time on Cooking with Tej.